A racist receptionist tells a black woman to wait her turn, treating her with nothing but scorn and dismissal. But that receptionist has no idea that the woman she is belittling is not just another patient. She is the new chief executive officer of the entire hospital. This is the story of how one woman's venomous prejudice and unchecked arrogance led to her complete and total public destruction. The lobby of St. Jude's General is a kingdom, and Carol Ann Miller is its undisputed queen. Her throne is a padded vinyl chair, worn smooth by the weight of 2 decades of absolute, petty dominion. Her scepter is a ballpoint pen, chained to the counter like a leash dog, which she wields with the sharp, jabbing motions of a tyrant. Her crown is a headset, a plastic halo that connects her to the sprawling nervous system of the hospital, a system she believes she alone truly understands. From this desk, this Formica fortress, Carol commands the tides of human misery and hope that wash through the automatic glass doors each day. She is the gatekeeper. The first face you see, and the last word on whether your suffering is deemed worthy of attention. She is a woman carved from granite and prejudice. Her hair, a helmet of sprayed blonde, has not changed its style since the turn of the millennium. Her face is a permanent mask of pinched disapproval, her lips a thin, bloodless line. Her eyes, the color of a faded sky, hold no warmth. They are assessor's eyes, constantly scanning, categorizing, and dismissing the river of people flowing past her station. She sorts them into neat, invisible boxes. The deserving, the annoying, the wealthy, the poor, the ones who know their place, and the ones who need to be taught it. Carol believes in order. Her order. The world, in her view, is a messy, chaotic place full of people who do not follow the rules. Her desk is the last bastion of sense and procedure. Here, forms are filled out correctly. Insurance cards are presented promptly. Voices are kept to a respectful murmur. And everyone, absolutely everyone, waits their turn. Especially certain people. This morning, the kingdom is in its usual state of controlled chaos. The air hums with the low murmur of anxious conversations, the squeak of rubber-soled shoes on polished linoleum, and the distant, mournful beep of unseen machines. The scent of antiseptic clings to everything, a sterile perfume that fails to mask the underlying odor of fear. Carol is in her element. She dispenses curt nods and sharp directives, her voice a weapon honed by years of practice. Sign here, insurance, have a seat. Each phrase is a dismissal, a clear signal that the transaction is over and her attention must now be earned all over again. Then, the glass doors slide open, and a woman walks in who does not fit into any of Carol's pre-labeled boxes. The woman is black, perhaps in her early 40s. She is not dressed to impress. She wears simple, dark slacks, a modest gray blouse, and comfortable-looking flat shoes. There is no designer handbag on her arm, no flashy jewelry on her fingers. Her hair is styled in neat, elegant braids that fall just past her shoulders. She carries a plain leather portfolio, held loosely in one hand. She does not rush to the desk. Instead, she pauses just inside the entrance, her presence quiet, almost unnervingly still. Her eyes, dark and intelligent, move slowly across the lobby. She is not looking at the signs or the directory. She is looking at the people. She sees the worried father bouncing a feverish child on his knee. She sees the young man with his arm in a makeshift sling, his face pale with pain. She sees the elderly woman clutching a referral slip, her hands trembling. Her gaze is not that of a patient. It is the gaze of an observer, a scientist studying a new ecosystem. Carol watches her from behind the counter. Her internal gears begin to whir, sorting and labeling. No obvious signs of distress. Not dressed well enough for a pharmaceutical representative or a specialist's wife. Too calm for a family member in crisis. The portfolio suggests some kind of official business, but the clothes suggest otherwise. Carol's lip curls ever so slightly. Probably someone from a social services agency, or worse, someone looking for a handout. The woman, Dr. Alani Williams, feels the receptionist stare like a physical touch. A cold, appraising weight. She is used to it. In her career, she has learned that her appearance is a kind of camouflage. It allows her to see institutions not as they present themselves to people of power, but as they truly are to everyone else. Today is her first day as the new CEO of St. Jude's, a fact known only to the board of directors, whom she is scheduled to meet in an hour. She had arrived early, intentionally dressed down, to perform her own private audit. She believes a hospital's soul is not found in its boardroom, it is found in its lobby. Alani's attention is drawn to the elderly woman she had noticed earlier. The woman, who looks to be in her late 70s, is now standing before Carol's desk. Her name is Eleanor Gable. She holds her referral slip in a hand gnarled with arthritis. Her face is etched with a weary patience, but a flicker of fear shines in her eyes. "Excuse me," Mrs. Gable says, her voice thin and reedy. "I have an appointment with the cardiology department. Dr. Evans. At 9 o'clock. Carol does not look up from her computer screen. She types with 2 fingers, a slow, deliberate pecking motion. Name, she clips out. Gable. Eleanor Gable. Peck. 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 A long, deliberate silence stretches. Carol sighs, a sound of profound and theatrical weariness, as if this simple request is the single greatest burden she has had to bear all day. "I don't see a Gable for Dr. Evans." "Oh, but there must be," Mrs. Gable insists gently. "My doctor, Dr. Chen, he made the appointment last week. He said it was very important. I have the slip right here." She pushes the piece of paper across the counter. Carol glances at the paper with disdain, not even bothering to touch it. The system is the system. If you're not in it, you don't have an appointment. Cardiology is on the 4th floor. You can go up there and ask, but they'll just send you back down to me. It is a perfectly constructed bureaucratic wall, designed to be unscalable. "But, my doctor said it was urgent," Mrs. Gable's voice wavers. "I've been having these chest pains." "Everyone has pains, dear," Carol says, her tone dripping with condescension. "If it's an emergency, the emergency room is down the hall. Otherwise, you'll have to call your doctor and make another appointment. Now, if you'll excuse me." She turns her head pointedly toward the next person in line, a man in a crisp business suit. "Next." Mrs. Gable stands there for a moment, lost and confused. The dismissal is so total, so absolute, that she doesn't know how to react. Her small world of doctor's instructions and urgent referrals has just collided with the unmovable object of Carol's indifference. She looks down at her slip of paper as if it has betrayed her. Alani feels a cold knot tighten in her stomach. This is it. The soul of the hospital. It is cold, and it is cruel. She walks forward, her movements calm and measured. She stops beside Mrs. Gable, offering the older woman a small, reassuring smile before turning her attention to the queen on the throne. "Excuse me," Alani says, her voice quiet but clear. "Perhaps there's been a mistake. Could you please double-check the system for Eleanor Gable?" Carol's head snaps up. Her eyes narrow as she takes in Alani. The quiet observer has now become an interferer. This is a breach of protocol. A challenge to her authority. Her gaze sweeps over Alani's simple clothes, her braided hair, her dark skin. The final piece of her assessment clicks into place. "There is a line," Carol says, her voice flat and hard. She gestures with her pen toward the back of the queue, a line that has formed since Alani entered the lobby. "You'll have to wait your turn like everyone else." "I'm not here for myself," Alani replies, her tone remaining even. "I'm concerned about this woman. She seems to be in distress, and you've just dismissed her." A flicker of something ugly crosses Carol's face. It is the anger of a petty tyrant whose power has been questioned. "I haven't dismissed anyone. I have informed her of the proper procedure." "Something you clearly know nothing about." She turns her full, venomous attention on Alani. "This is a hospital, not a community center. We have rules. Now, get in line or step aside." Alani does not move. She holds Carol's gaze. Her doctor said her appointment was urgent. That should be reason enough to take a second look, to make a phone call, to show a basic level of professional curiosity and human compassion. The words, human compassion, seem to offend Carol on a cellular level. It is a language she does not speak. "Look," Carol says, leaning forward, her voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial hiss meant to intimidate. "I have been doing this job since before you were born, probably. I know how things work. She's not in the system. End of story. Now, for the last time, wait your turn." The insult is twofold, a barb of ageism wrapped in a blanket of sheer contempt. But it is the finality, the utter refusal to even consider the possibility of an error, that solidifies Alani's resolve. The system isn't just broken, it's actively hostile, and this woman is its proud, unthinking guardian. Alani glances at Mrs. Gable, who now looks on the verge of tears. She places a gentle hand on the elderly woman's arm. It's all right, Eleanor. We'll sort this out. Using the woman's first name, a simple act of familiarity and respect, seems to enrage Carol even more. It is an alliance being formed against her, right at the foot of her throne. Her kingdom is under siege. And the queen is preparing to double down. Carol watches as Alani guides Mrs. Gable to a nearby set of chairs. The insolence is breathtaking. Not only did this woman challenge her authority, but she is now staging a silent protest in the middle of her lobby. Carol's face hardens. Fine. Let her wait. Let them both wait. She turns to the man in the business suit who has been standing patiently. Her entire demeanor transforms. A plastic smile stretches across her thin lips. So sorry about that interruption, sir. How can I help you today? Her voice is now syrupy sweet, a grotesque pantomime of customer service. The man, Mr. Jennings, is a hospital donor. Carol knows him by sight. She fawns over him, processing his paperwork for a pre-admitted procedure with lightning speed, her fingers flying across the keyboard she had pecked at so slowly for Mrs. Gable. She laughs at a joke he doesn't make. She offers him a bottle of water from a small fridge under her desk, a courtesy reserved for the elite. The entire performance is for Alani's benefit. It is a demonstration of power. See. This is how the deserving are treated. This is the world you are not a part of. This is the efficiency I am capable of when dealing with people who matter. Alani watches the display without expression. She is no longer just observing a system. She is gathering evidence. Every cloying word, every obsequious gesture toward Mr. Jennings is another exhibit in the case she is building in her mind. Meanwhile, Mrs. Gable is starting to look unwell. Her breathing is shallow, and a fine sheen of sweat has appeared on her wrinkled brow. She presses a hand to her chest. It's happening again, she whispers, her voice tight with panic. The squeezing. A young nurse, her name tag reading Emily, notices the scene from across the lobby. She has the fresh, earnest face of a recent graduate, her eyes not yet hardened by the cynicism that permeates the hospital's older staff. She has seen Carol's cruelty before, countless times, but has always been too intimidated to intervene. Today, seeing the old woman's genuine distress, she feels a surge of courage. Emily hurries over. "Ma'am, are you all right?" she asks, her voice full of concern. She kneels beside Mrs. Gable, taking her wrist to feel for a pulse. "Your skin is clammy. Are you having chest pains?" Mrs. Gable nods weakly. "They told me. Dr. Chen said, if it got bad." "I know," Emily says soothingly. "Let me just get you to triage. We can sort out the appointment later." She stands up, ready to help Mrs. Gable to her feet. She glances toward the front desk. "Carol, I'm taking this patient to be checked out. She's presenting with cardiac symptoms." Carol finishes with Mr. Jennings, sending him on his way with a final, dazzlingly fake smile. The smile evaporates the second she turns her attention to Emily. Her eyes turn to chips of ice. "You will do no such thing, nurse," Carol says, her voice dangerously quiet. "You are abandoning your station on the 3rd floor. And you are interfering with intake protocol. This woman has not been processed. She's in distress." Emily protests, her voice rising. "Look at her. This is a medical issue, not a paperwork one." "Everything in this hospital is a paperwork issue first," Carol retorts, her voice rising to match Emily's. The entire lobby is now watching the confrontation. That is how we avoid lawsuits. That is how we ensure payment. If she is having an emergency, she can go to the emergency room and be processed there. You will return to your floor immediately, or I will be having a very long talk with your supervisor, Susan Clark. I hear she's making cuts to next year's nursing budget. It would be a shame if your name came up." The threat is blatant, a piece of bureaucratic blackmail delivered with surgical precision. Emily pales. She is young, probably still paying off student loans. A complaint from Carol, the longest-serving employee in the administrative department, would be a death sentence for her career at St. Jude's. Her courage falters. Her shoulders slump in defeat. Yes, Carol, she murmurs, casting an apologetic look at Alani and Mrs. Gable. She turns and walks away, her face burning with shame. The ineffective ally has been neutralized. Carol smirks, a small, triumphant twitch of her lips. She has restored order. She has put the upstart nurse in her place and demonstrated, once again, that she is untouchable. Now, for the root of the problem. She stands up, a rare occurrence, and walks around the counter. The move is aggressive, a monarch descending from her throne to deal with a peasant revolt personally. She strides over to Alani and Mrs. Gable, her sensible shoes clicking sharply on the linoleum. She looms over them, crossing her arms. All right, I have had just about enough of this. Her voice is no longer quiet. It is loud, designed to command the attention of the entire lobby, to publicly humiliate the two women who dared to disrupt her morning. This woman, she says, pointing a rigid finger at Mrs. Gable, has been told the procedure. And you, she turns the full force of her glare on Alani, are causing a disturbance. You are agitating patients and interfering with hospital staff performing their duties. I am giving you one final chance. Either take your seat, get in line, and wait quietly, or I will call security and have you both removed from the premises for trespassing. The threat hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. To be thrown out of a hospital when seeking care. It is the ultimate rejection, the final, brutal act of a system that has ceased to see the people it is meant to serve. Alani looks up at Carol. Her face is a mask of impossible calm. She has seen this before, in other hospitals, other boardrooms, other institutions on the brink of failure. It is the death rattle of the old guard, the blind arrogance of those who cannot imagine a world where their power is not absolute. You would have an elderly woman having chest pains thrown out onto the street? Alani asks, her voice soft, yet carrying across the silent lobby. The directness of the question, the simple, brutal truth of it, seems to short-circuit Carol's brain for a second. She sputters, caught off guard. She can go to the emergency room. I have told you the options. It's not my fault if people don't listen. It's not about listening, Carol, Alani says, her voice still quiet, still calm. It's about compassion. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's not the easy thing. This appeal to morality is the final straw for Carol. She feels her authority, her entire worldview, being judged and found wanting by this woman, this nobody. The carefully constructed dam of her professionalism, thin as it is, finally breaks. A torrent of pure, unfiltered venom pours out. Oh, don't you preach to me about the right thing, she sneers, her face twisting into an ugly caricature of contempt. People like you are always coming in here, thinking the rules don't apply to you, demanding special treatment. I know your type. You think you can just make a scene and get whatever you want. She leans in closer, her voice dropping, but the malice is so potent it feels like a shout. This is a private hospital. A respectable institution. We have standards. I am sure the free clinic across town has much shorter lines. They're probably better equipped to handle your kind. There it is. The line. The one that can never be uncrossed. The single, vile sentence that lays bare the rot at the core of her being. It is no longer about rules or procedures. It is about race. It is about class. It is about a deep, abiding prejudice that has festered behind this desk for 20 years. The lobby, already tense, goes dead silent. People who had been trying to mind their own business now stare openly, their faces a mixture of shock and disgust. Alani Williams does not flinch. She does not gasp. She does not raise her voice. But something inside her shifts. The observer is gone. The auditor is gone. The patient, quiet woman in the gray blouse is gone. In her place is a CEO. A leader. An avenger. Her eyes, which had been calm and analytical, turn to obsidian. The temperature around her seems to drop by several degrees. She looks at Carol, truly looks at her, and for the first time, Carol feels a prickle of fear. It is the fear of an animal that has just realized the creature it has been tormenting is not prey, but a predator of an entirely different order. But before Alani can speak, before the first word of the coming storm can be uttered, a sound cuts through the thick silence. It is the sound of the main glass doors sliding open with a soft, pneumatic hiss. The sound is mundane, an everyday occurrence in this lobby. But this time, it feels different. It feels like a curtain rising on the final act of a play. Through the doors walks not a patient, but a phalanx of power. 5 men, all in immaculate, dark business suits, stride into the lobby. They move with the confident, unhurried pace of people who own the ground they walk on. The air of authority they exude is so potent it seems to suck the very oxygen from the room. At their head is a distinguished man with silver hair and a face that looks like it was chiseled from worry and responsibility. This is Arthur Harrison, the chairman of the board of directors for St. Jude's General Hospital. They stop just inside the entrance, their eyes scanning the room. They are clearly looking for someone. Their expressions are a mixture of impatience and confusion. They were supposed to be meeting the new CEO in the executive boardroom 10 minutes ago. Carol sees them. Her internal alarm bells, the ones that scream, "Important people," go off. This is her chance to reassert her authority, to show these powerful men that she is in control of her domain. She straightens up, plastering on her professional smile, the one reserved for donors and board members. The ugly mask of a moment ago vanishes as if it never existed. She takes a step away from Alani, preparing to intercept the men, to offer her services as the ever-efficient, ever-capable gatekeeper. But it's too late. Chairman Harrison's eyes land on Alani. A look of immense relief washes over his face. He breaks away from the group and walks directly toward her, his hand extended. "Dr. Williams." "There you are," he says, his voice booming with a warmth and respect that is utterly alien to the current atmosphere of the lobby. "We were getting worried. We were waiting for you up in the boardroom. For a moment, we thought you might have gotten lost." The words hit the air and hang there, shimmering with impossibility. "Dr. Williams." Carol freezes mid-stride. Her smile congeals on her face. Her brain struggles to connect the name, the title, with the woman in the plain clothes she had just told to go to a free clinic. It doesn't compute. It cannot be. It is a glitch in the universe, a tear in the fabric of her well-ordered world. Alani does not look at Harrison yet. She does not take his hand. Her eyes remain locked on Carol. She wants to see it. She wants to watch the precise moment that the arrogance shatters and the terror sets in. And she sees it. The color drains from Carol's face, leaving behind a pasty, sickly gray. Her jaw goes slack. The plastic smile cracks and falls away, revealing the raw panic beneath. The pen she had been holding, her scepter of power, clatters from her numb fingers and bounces on the linoleum floor with a sound that is unnaturally loud in the dead silence. She stammers, a pathetic, strangled sound. "Tor." The power dynamic in the lobby does not just shift. It is not a gentle transfer of energy. It is a cataclysm. A nuclear detonation of authority. In the space of a single heartbeat, Carol's kingdom has been wiped from the map. Her throne has turned into an electric chair. Her fortress has become her tomb. She is no longer the queen. She is just a woman, suddenly very small and very, very afraid, standing in the ruins of a life's work built on the rotten foundation of her own prejudice. The entire world has turned upside down. The woman she saw as nothing, a nuisance to be swatted away, is now the single most powerful person in the building. And Alani Williams, Dr. Alani Williams, the new chief executive officer of St. Jude's General Hospital, has not yet even begun to speak. Alani finally turns her head, breaking her intense gaze on Carol to acknowledge the chairman. She gives him a tight, professional smile, though her eyes remain cold as ice. "Mr. Harrison," she says, her voice a model of composure. "Gentlemen of the board. Thank you for coming down," she gestures vaguely around the tense lobby. "My apologies for the delay. I decided that before I sequestered myself in the sterile environment of the boardroom, my first official act should be to observe our patient intake process firsthand. To experience the hospital from the front door, as our patients do." Her gaze sweeps the room, over the shocked faces of the other patients, over the shamed face of Nurse Emily, over the trembling form of Mrs. Gable, before finally settling back on the horror-struck face of Carol. "It has been," she says, pausing for devastating effect, "profoundly illuminating." Chairman Harrison, an astute man who did not get to his position by being slow on the uptake, immediately senses the frigid undercurrents in the room. He looks from Alani's stony expression to the terrified receptionist and the distressed elderly woman. Illuminating. "Dr. Williams, is there a problem here?" "A problem is a mild way of putting it, Arthur," Alani replies, using his first name with a familiarity that further twists the knife in Carol's gut. What I have witnessed here this morning is not a problem. It is a symptom of a deep and pervasive disease within this institution. A disease of indifference, of cruelty, and of prejudice. She begins to walk, a slow, deliberate patrol of the space. Her voice is calm, almost conversational, but it carries the weight of an indictment. She is no longer just talking to the board, she is addressing the entire lobby. She is turning this public space into her courtroom. I witnessed this woman, Mrs. Eleanor Gable, she begins, stopping beside the elderly woman and placing a comforting hand on her shoulder, a cardiac patient with an urgent referral from her primary care physician, be told her appointment did not exist. She was dismissed without a second thought, without a single attempt to verify the information with the cardiology department. She looks at the board members, ensuring they understand the gravity of the medical negligence. Mrs. Gable then began to exhibit clear symptoms of cardiac distress, right here in this lobby. Her gaze finds Nurse Emily, who flinches as if struck. But Alani's expression softens slightly. I witnessed a compassionate young nurse attempt to intervene, to provide the medical care this hospital is sworn to provide. And I watched as she was threatened and intimidated into abandoning her patient by your head receptionist. All eyes now fall on Carol, who seems to be shrinking inside her uniform. She opens her mouth to speak, to defend herself, but no sound comes out. A tiny, pathetic squeak is all she can manage. Alani's slow, deliberate circle brings her back to the front desk, back to face her tormentor directly. And when I myself attempted to advocate for Mrs. Gable, I was told to wait my turn, I was told I knew nothing of procedure. I was threatened with security. She pauses, letting the words sink in, letting the full scope of Carol's transgressions be absorbed by everyone present. Then, she delivers the killing blow. And finally, after being accused of making a scene, I was advised that the free clinic across town would be better equipped to handle my kind. A collective gasp ripples through the onlookers. Several of the board members look physically ill. Chairman Harrison's face, already grim, turns to a thundercloud of pure fury. This is the moment Carol's survival instinct finally kicks in, overriding her paralysis. The cornered animal bares its teeth. No, she shrieks, her voice cracking. That's not what happened. It's a misunderstanding. She's twisting my words. She was the one being aggressive, her and that old woman. They were disrupting everything. I was just trying to maintain order. I was following protocol. The desperate, frantic lies spill out, a pathetic attempt to repaint reality. Standing with the board is a man in a slightly less expensive suit, the hospital's head of human resources, a man named Henderson. He is Carol's direct supervisor. He sees his career flashing before his eyes. He immediately, and with shameless haste, moves to sever the limb to save the body. This is absolutely unacceptable. Henderson bellows, stepping forward and pointing an accusatory finger at Carol. Carol, I am shocked. Appalled. This kind of behavior is not tolerated at St. Jude's. It is a flagrant violation of our code of conduct. How could you? The betrayal is so swift, so total, that it stuns even Carol into silence for a moment. This is the man who, for years, had ignored the dozens of minor complaints filed against her, dismissing them as, Carol being Carol. This is the man who praised her for running a tight ship. Now, he is her chief accuser, his face a mask of righteous indignation. The system is devouring its own. But Alani is not finished. Her deconstruction is not yet complete. She looks at Carol's pathetic, crumbling facade and feels not an ounce of pity. Protocol? Alani asks, her voice dropping to a dangerously soft level. You were following protocol, you say. The protocol is to deny care to a patient in distress. The protocol is to threaten dedicated nurses. The protocol is to direct people of color to the free clinic. I didn't. I wouldn't. Carol sobs, tears of pure terror and self-pity now streaming down her face. I would never say that. She's lying. Alani holds up a hand, silencing her. There is no need to argue the point, she says with chilling calmness. Because in my previous role, overseeing operations for a national hospital network, I learned a valuable lesson. When auditing a system, it is always best to have a record. She reaches into the pocket of her slacks and pulls out her smartphone. Her thumb taps the screen once. And then, she plays the recording. The sound is crystal clear. The lobby, which had been as silent as a tomb, is now filled with the sound of the last 20 minutes. Carol's voice, sharp and dismissive, echoes through the space. I don't see a Gable for Dr. Evans. Mrs. Gable's voice, frail and worried. But, my doctor said it was urgent. Carol's condescending reply. Everyone has pains, dear. The recording plays on, an unedited, undeniable account of what transpired. The confrontation with Alani. The sharp command to wait your turn, the public dressing down of Nurse Emily. The explicit threat against her job. And then, the final, damning sentence, rendered in perfect, high-fidelity audio. I am sure the free clinic across town has much shorter lines. They're probably better equipped to handle your kind. The words, spoken a second time, are even more vile. They hang in the air, stripped of context or denial, a pure, distilled poison. Carol lets out a guttural sound, a moan of utter and complete despair. The sound of a soul being publicly executed. She stares at the phone in Alani's hand as if it were a venomous snake. The evidence is irrefutable. The nail has been hammered into her coffin. The board members are statues of fury. Chairman Harrison's face is crimson. He looks as if he is about to have a stroke. He turns to the man standing at the back of his entourage, a large, imposing figure who has remained silent until now. The hospital's chief of security, a man named Davies. Harrison's voice is low, trembling with rage. It is not a request. It is a command from on high. Mr. Davies. Escort this employee off the premises. Now. Davies nods once, his face grim. He and another security guard step forward. Revoke her building access, her network privileges, everything. Effective this second, Harrison continues, his voice like the crack of a whip. Have her personal effects boxed up and mailed to her. She is not to set foot in this hospital ever again. She is terminated. For cause. The public humiliation is swift and brutal. Davies and the other guard take Carol by the arms. She doesn't struggle, she is limp, all the fight gone out of her, replaced by a hollow shock. They begin to lead her out from behind the desk, her little kingdom, for the very last time. As they guide her past the line of stunned patients, a lifetime of petty tyranny flashes before her eyes. The thousands of people she had dismissed, belittled, and obstructed. The small joys she had taken in their frustration. All of it culminating in this, her final, ignominious exit. Just before she reaches the doors, a final spark of defiance, of impotent rage, ignites within her. She twists her head around, her tear-streaked face a mask of hatred. She screams at Alani. You tricked me. You set me up. You came in here looking like that on purpose. Alani Williams stands perfectly still amidst the quiet chaos. She meets Carol's desperate, hateful gaze without a flicker of emotion. Her reply is not loud, but it cuts through the lobby like a surgeon's scalpel, precise and final. No, Carol, she says. I didn't trick you. I didn't have to. I just gave you the opportunity to show everyone in this room exactly who you are. She gestures around the lobby, at the patients, at the board, at the shell-shocked staff. This hospital is supposed to be a place of healing. For everyone. But for years, the very first thing people have encountered here is sickness. Your sickness. Today, we begin the cure. The glass doors slide shut behind Carol, sealing her fate. The Queen has been deposed. Her reign is over. The immediate aftermath is a blur of decisive action. Alani, now fully in command, directs the stunned lobby with the calm authority of a seasoned general. Someone get a wheelchair for Mrs. Gable immediately, she orders. And page Dr. Evans in cardiology. Tell him I said it's a CEO priority. I want her admitted and receiving a full workup within the next 10 minutes. Her care in this hospital, from this moment forward, is to be provided at no cost to her or her family. A half-dozen staff members, eager to distance themselves from the old regime, scramble to comply. Next, she turns to Nurse Emily, who is still standing by, looking overwhelmed. Nurse, Alani says, her voice softening. What is your name? Emily. Emily Carter, she stammers. Emily, Alani says, giving her a genuinely warm smile. Today, you showed courage. You put your patient before protocol, and you put compassion before your own career. That is the spirit I want to build this hospital's future on. She turns to the still fuming Chairman Harrison and the pale-faced HR manager, Henderson. As of this moment, I am creating a new position, head patient advocate. It will report directly to my office. And I am offering the job to Nurse Carter. Effective immediately. With a 20% raise. Emily's jaw drops. Tears well up in her eyes, but this time they are tears of shock and gratitude. She can only nod, speechless. Finally, Alani's gaze falls upon Henderson, the HR manager who so quickly tried to save his own skin. He offers her a weak, sycophantic smile. An excellent decision, Dr. Williams. Excellent, he says, trying to align himself with the new power. Alani's eyes turn to steel. Mr. Henderson, she says, her voice devoid of any warmth. I would like a full report on my desk by noon tomorrow. A report detailing every single complaint, formal or informal, ever filed against Carol Miller during her 20-year tenure. I also want a list of every employee who has resigned from the administrative department in the last 5 years, along with copies of their exit interviews. Henderson's face goes white. He knows what that report will show. It will show a pattern of abuse that he personally ignored and buried for years. And Mr. Henderson, Alani adds, as a chilling afterthought. You might want to take the rest of the day to update your resume. She turns her back on him, the dismissal as complete and final as the one Carol had given Mrs. Gable an hour earlier. She walks over to Chairman Harrison. Arthur, she says quietly. Shall we go to the boardroom now? I believe we have a new agenda to discuss. The fallout from that morning in the lobby is not just a ripple, it is a tsunami that reshapes the entire landscape of St. Jude's General Hospital. It becomes known among the staff as the reckoning. Carol and Miller's ruin is absolute. Fired for gross misconduct and violation of patient rights, she discovers that her reputation precedes her. The audio recording, while not released to the public, becomes the central exhibit in the hospital's internal investigation and is shared with a network of healthcare administrators across the state. She is effectively blacklisted. No hospital, no clinic, not even a small-town dentist's office will hire her for a front-facing role. The severance package she had counted on is denied due to the nature of her termination. Her pension is frozen pending a review. Within a year, the woman who reigned over the lobby of St. Jude's is working as a part-time cashier at a discount grocery store, her face a permanent mask of sour resentment, forever haunted by the quiet woman in the gray blouse. Her supervisor, Henderson, fares no better. The report Alani demanded is a damning indictment of his negligence. It reveals over 50 separate complaints against Carol, ranging from rudeness to outright racism, all of which he had personally marked as resolved or unfounded. Furthermore, the exit interviews of former employees paint a picture of a toxic department ruled by fear and favoritism, a culture Henderson actively cultivated. He is fired 2 days after the reckoning. The board, facing the threat of multiple lawsuits from former patients who hear of the incident, authorizes legal action against him for gross negligence, seeking to hold him financially accountable for the hostile environment he allowed to fester. His career in hospital administration is over. But the consequences are not merely punitive. The change is constructive. Mrs. Eleanor Gable receives the best care of her life. Dr. Evans, the head of cardiology, personally oversees her case. They discover a significant blockage that, left untreated, would have likely caused a massive heart attack within weeks. She undergoes a successful procedure and makes a full recovery. The hospital sends a formal, written apology to her home, along with a check refunding every penny she or her insurance had ever paid to St. Jude's for any service, ever. She becomes a vocal advocate for the hospital's new leadership, a living testament to the change that has occurred. Nurse Emily Carter thrives in her new role. As head patient advocate, she becomes a powerful voice for those who previously had none. She overhauls the intake process, implementing a system that prioritizes patient comfort and communication over rigid bureaucracy. She establishes a direct, confidential line for complaints that goes straight to her and to Alani's office, bypassing middle managers like Henderson. She is beloved by patients and respected by staff, a symbol of the hospital's new soul. And Dr. Alani Williams, the quiet avenger, becomes a legend. Her actions on her very first day send a clear, unambiguous message to every single employee: the old ways are dead. She launches a hospital-wide, Compassion First initiative. She retrains the entire administrative staff. She promotes from within, rewarding employees who demonstrate empathy and dedication. She overturns dozens of wrongful billing claims and reviews past patient complaints, seeking to make amends for the hospital's past failures. She is not just a CEO who sits in an office, she is a visible presence on the floors, talking to nurses, to janitors, to patients. She learns their names. She listens to their stories. She restores not just the hospital's reputation, but its very purpose. 6 months later, the lobby of St. Jude's is unrecognizable. The harsh fluorescent lights have been replaced with warmer, softer lighting. The cold, sterile gray walls have been repainted in calming shades of blue and green. Comfortable chairs have replaced the hard plastic ones. Where Carol's imposing fortress of a desk once stood, there is now an open, welcoming, circular reception station, staffed by 3 friendly, smiling administrators. At a separate, clearly marked desk nearby, Emily Carter is speaking gently with a young mother, patiently explaining a complex insurance form. She looks confident, happy, and fulfilled. The glass doors slide open and Mrs. Gable walks in, not as a patient, but as a visitor. She is vibrant and healthy, a bouquet of bright yellow flowers in her hand. She bypasses the main desk and walks straight to Emily, giving her a warm hug. "Just came to say hello, dear," Mrs. Gable says brightly. "And to drop these off for Dr. Williams." Just then, Alani herself emerges from a hallway, not in a suit, but in comfortable scrubs, a stethoscope draped around her neck. She has just finished observing a procedure in the ER. Her face breaks into a wide, genuine smile when she sees Mrs. Gable. "Eleanor." "What a wonderful surprise," Alani says, accepting the flowers. "You look wonderful." "I feel wonderful, thanks to you," Mrs. Gable replies, her eyes shining. "This place, it feels different now. It feels like it cares." Alani looks around the transformed lobby, at the calm, orderly flow of people being treated with dignity and respect. She looks at Emily, a rising star. She looks at Eleanor, a life saved. This is what justice looks like. It is not just the tearing down of the old and corrupt, it is the building of something new and better in its place. The moral of the story is written on the peaceful faces of the patients in the waiting room. Arrogance is a blindness. Prejudice is a prison. Carol, in her petty kingdom of hate, could never see the person standing in front of her. She saw only a category, a stereotype, a target for her resentment. In her desperate need to feel powerful, she targeted someone she perceived as weak. And in doing so, she orchestrated her own spectacular downfall. She made the fatal mistake of assuming that a person's worth is measured by the clothes they wear or the color of their skin, never imagining that the quiet woman in the gray blouse held the power to shatter her entire world with a single, softly spoken word. Justice, in the end, is not always loud and violent. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, watches patiently, and then, with devastating precision, simply allows people to be judged by the content of their character.